philipstown.info. And there are many transitions in life, each of which are important. First day of school, first job, getting married. But I think one of the biggest, most people will agree on, is leaving high school for whatever follows next. And today we have 5 seniors from Haldane High School to talk to us about what's next for them and to look back a bit at Haldane and get their views on that, as well as views on some other larger issues. So let's get started. So first we'll just do a roll call and ask each of you to tell us who you are and your age and what you hope to be doing in the fall.
Okay. Hi, I'm Kristen. I'm 18 and I plan to attend Dutchess Community College in the fall.
Thank you.
My name is Tess Duell. I'm 18 and I plan to go to Muhlenberg College for theater and math.
I'm Zach Lantroop. I'm 18 and I plan to go to Lafayette College for mechanical engineering.
I'm Liz Milner. I'm 18 and I plan to go to Fordham University as well as play basketball there.
My name is Malachi Cleary. I am 17 years old and I plan to attend a college in the fall.
Very good. Sounds like there's some room for creativity there.
Yeah, I'm undecided right now. So.
Okay, well, as I said, I think you'll all agree this is a big transition. Tell me if I'm wrong, but I know you have a lot of thoughts about the future, but what I'm interested in hearing first is what you're actually feeling right now as you get to the end of your career at Haldane. What sort of emotions are running through your veins as you go to school each day and think about that graduation not too far off? So who wants to start? Who has an immediate thought? I think Tess does.
Well, it's kind of like a mixed bag of emotions. When I think about actual graduation, I get kind of sad almost that I'm leaving. But then when I think about college and what I get to do in the fall, then I get really excited. So it's definitely mixed emotions right now.
Everybody agree with that? Is this a unanimous vote? Or?
Yeah. It's like an emotion sandwich, and there's like ham, because you're scared and you're excited at the same time. So if fear is like ham, lettuce would be excitement, and maybe like a little mayo would be nostalgia for the past, because we've been at Haldane our whole lives, and some of us are probably ready to get out, and we also have our roots run deep in Haldane, right? And I'm doing a senior internship right now, and I thought I'd be missing my last month of school and I'd be sad, but actually it's not that bad, and I'm doing pretty well, I think. And it's really just kind of, you're excited and scared at the same time.
I like the sandwich analogy.
Yeah.
And so nobody's just experiencing pure relief. Phew, I'm glad to be out of there.
There's certainly a relief as far as some aspects of high school you don't miss. I mean, every high school has that. But yeah, sadness is a big thing. I turned in my lacrosse helmet a half an hour ago for the last time.
Okay. So what are your thoughts about Haldane overall as you approach graduation? I mean, the fact that Haldane is a small school is a major part of its character. But looking back on that smallness, what are the pros and cons? The best aspects of a small school, and maybe some of the weaknesses or the things you might wish had been a bit different. Christine, what do you think in terms of the positive aspects of a small school?
You're very close-knit, so you know everybody, you know them well. One of the things that isn't so good is that you can't really interact with other people, because we're not really close to other schools. So it's hard. You have like really good friends, but you can't really branch out that much, I guess. But yeah, I mean, I have good friends at Haldane. I've been friends with them since kindergarten, which is the best part. We're all close. Yeah. So.
How does it come out in the wash in terms of 10 votes for smallness being good, 10 votes for not being good? Does smallness win 10-0, or how would you rank it?
That's a tough call, because I feel lucky to be able to go to such a small school. I feel lucky that I've gotten such close attention from teachers and from administration, from many staff at the school. I feel lucky to have known, Tess, Malky, Kristen, Liz so well for 13 years. But there's some drawbacks. I don't have all the classes available to me, at my school that, some kids do at bigger schools. And like Kristen said, you have a small number of great friends and you don't have really diversity of friends.
What do you think, Liz? You're going on to a big college and big basketball. So.
Well, I'd say having such a small school allows for such a strong support system because you all know each other so well and what helps each other out, and everyone's willing to provide help for each other, whether it's teachers or students. But then again, it's so hard to kind of have privacy and, as I said, branch out because there's so few people that it's hard to kind of get new relationships, which I think makes a lot of people nervous going to college.
Right.
Because you don't really know how to. All of my friends, pretty much from Haldane, have established since kindergarten, so it's kind of a new thing that not many people have faced.
You folks may have been a bit too late in your career, I guess, in high school, but did any of you take part in the virtual high school, and what do you think of that? Because that seems to be a great opportunity for Haldane students to access courses that are from anywhere in the world, basically. But did any of you get a chance to partake?
Yes.
What'd you think?
I really liked how much options we had as far as classes we could take. You could take anything from German to engineering, sustainable energy is what I took, to physics, A, B, whatever, any math class you can think of basically. And in my engineering for sustainable energy class, I really love the content and I learned a lot. There's this great documentary that I found called Koyan Iskatsi, which is like this kind of Fantasia meets, I guess like Inconvenient Truth thing, and it's very interesting because there's no dialogue and it's all music. And I guess I'm getting off on a tangent here, but I learned that from the virtual high school course, and I learned physics of how to make engineer these things, and I built my own lamp, which was cool, and I never actually built anything before. But the motivation to like go to class wasn't there when you're in that traditional classroom setting, and
Much more independent, right?
Yeah,
You're
you
on
need
your
to
own.
be really self-motivated.
Right.
Yeah.
But it sounds like it has great potential to open up avenues for a lot of students. But okay, forget about the fact that Mr. Aum and Mr. Volante are watching us as we speak, but what will you not miss at all from Haldane as you move on?
I won't miss the ability for people to track you down.
Okay.
If you're missing, a pair of shorts to the lacrosse team, a book for English class, or, you didn't get a pass to Miss Mizuka, it's very easy to be found. There's nowhere to hide.
I guess that won't be the case in
Hard to
college.
get off the
Yeah.
grid.
Anything else? Come on, spit it out. Nothing, huh? You can bring it up later if you think of something.
It'd be politically wise of us not to answer that
Yeah.
question.
Well, yeah, probably. So what will you miss the most then? Apart from your friends, you've all mentioned that you basically have friends from kindergarten through 12, so apart from that, what will you miss the most? That and the smallness, but are there any other specific things about Haldane itself that you're that first week in college, you can say, geez, I wouldn't mind being back there?
I'll miss knowing some of my teachers personally.
Yeah. How
And
small it is.
yeah, just like, there's some teachers I'll see when I'm not in school, and it just kind of solidifies the fact that they're, here for you to learn and to, educate you. And seeing them outside of school really reinforces that.
Yeah. How big's your class this year, graduating class, roughly?
70.
70 right on?
75, I think.
Yeah. Well, the other night I went to the Evening of the Rising Stars. The other night was very impressed with that event and all the talent I saw. But back in the ancient times when I went to high school, there was somewhat of a rivalry between athletics and the arts. I think there wasn't always there was not always complete mutual respect for those opposite activities, or different activities at least. Well, what would you comment about that at Haldane? How much friction is there? Is there any? Is it something that's changing?
Well, I feel like the importance of the arts is being appreciated more, maybe. Well, I had an interesting experience last year. I was on varsity basketball, and I was the lead in the musical. And I had done basketball and the musical since 7th grade, and it was fine, but they started both getting more intense and more involved, and I got to the point where I couldn't do both anymore, so I had to leave the basketball team. So
And they won anyway?
um, well, so that was difficult, and you can't really even have the option to do both in a larger school. So just the fact that I had the opportunity to pursue so many interests over so many years was amazing, and I had the support from the team, from everyone in the show, to really help me with the decision. But
Right. And you're somewhat a crossover as well, right? You did
Yeah.
lacrosse and drama.
I didn't do any drama,
No drama.
but no. Tess has a good point. You can do both. Tess is one of those people that definitely committed herself to the theater at Haldane, and in her case, it is hard to do sports. I know for my lacrosse coach, he's an art teacher at Haldane, and he showed a lot of respect to kids who did both, and didn't hold it against them for missing practices, things like that. He definitely wishes they could have been there for the whole time, but I think you have to go sport by sport to see what
What the attitudes are.
As far as rivalry goes, there really isn't. That doesn't really exist at Haldane for the most part, because there is such a crossover between kids doing arts and sports, and the fact that we are a high school, we either have to get along or nobody's gonna get along, and fortunately we all get along pretty much.
That's good. How about my perception is that the administration at Haldane would like to see more involvement in the community here by students at Haldane. Community or student, class projects, or just being involved in the community. Is that an accurate perception? And have any of you done things that have involved the community apart from the school, where you've become involved in Philipstown or Cold Spring?
Yes, this is perfect.
That's true. Good point. What do you think? Is that a good thing?
Who's saying that we need to be more involved in the
Well,
community?
my perception is that Mr. Valenti and others would like to see class projects which actually involve doing something in the community for the community. And I'm just wondering if any of you have been involved in extracurriculars that weren't part of the school but were helping the community more than the school.
Well, I know a few years ago in student council, or it might have been last year, we discussed setting up a program to teach the elderly of the community how to use computers and things like that. And I'm not sure if that ever actually went through, but I know that was something they tried to do. And
I
that
did
was the
that.
program.
Is there time to get involved with the community
Yeah,
in addition to school?
That's something that requires a lot of self-motivation. And I know Tess built a garden right outside of the First Presbyterian Church on Academy Street.
stop by. We're digging very soon.
Yeah.
Can start again.
And, I'm a volunteer at the Putnam Valley Ambulance Corps.
Cool.
I think by person, there's quite a bit of involvement, but kids haven't clustered together as much as maybe is expected. It takes more than one person to start, project going in the community, and I think if kids group together and put their efforts in one spot and recruit, I think then you could really have something happening.
But it's good to have people set examples for younger students of what they can do. Like my project started as my Gold Award for Girl Scouts, and Kristen and I have been Girl Scouts for 13 years now, which is crazy. And so I got a lot of the younger girls involved, and they all said, "Oh, I want to do a Gold Award now," and stuff like that. And I'm in Leo Club too, which is school-based. It's a branch of the Lions Club, which is a community organization, and we sponsor events like the Senior Citizens Dinner. So as a group, we reach out to the community, and that's a school function that we do. And it's growing a lot from what it used to be. And we have a lot of seniors leaving this year, but we have a lot of juniors that are willing to take over. And so many people have ideas of how to help and really branch out to the community.
Great. One of the other, I think, unique characteristics of Haldane, apart from its smallness, is you have one campus with K through 12.
Yeah.
Thinking back on that, do you think that's the best idea? If you were in charge, would you split it and have a campus only for, say, K through 8 and a high school in a totally separate place? What are the pros and cons of that as students, do you think?
I want to change it the way it is. I think it's cool to have, I mean, sometimes the hallways can get a little congested. That would be just a matter of working on the bell schedule. But I mean, I see, my friends' little brothers and my neighbors, and, and it's pretty easy, like, if my friend's, 10-year-old brother forgets his lunchbox, I mean, that's
Exactly.
pretty easy to get it to him.
Yeah.
And I think things like that is what makes Haldane.
What do you think, Kristen? Does it make high school seem less intimidating if you're
Yeah.
at the same campus in 8th grade?
Yeah, I like that it wasn't much of a transition. It was easier to go from one building to another rather than a different town. So, yeah, I really like how it is now. I definitely wouldn't change it.
Okay, now I'm going to put you on the spot, especially with Mr. Sitting here watching us. Now, apart from his duties of trying to ensure that all the students get a solid education, what do you think his biggest challenges are in dealing with high school students, apart from the educational aspect of it?
I think for Mr. Alm, the hardest thing is you have to deal with students the same way, give them the same treatment, and there are many different types of students. There's not one type of student. There's not even 5 types of students. There's 30, 40 types of students, even in a small school like Haldane. And he has to learn how to, make everything fair for everyone, give everyone the same amount of treatment, and he's got to figure out how to give the same attention to, a kid that, helps him out with everything versus a kid that, may not be nearly as interested in being at Haldane.
Anybody else? If you had his job, Malachi, what would you dread the most?
Okay. I don't know. I think Zach is definitely right. Haldane is small, but there's lots of different kinds of kids there. And either they're gonna love you or they're gonna hate you. Like who said it's better to have them fear you than to have them love you? So maybe I'd try the fear tactic. And if that didn't work, I'd try the love tactic. And I think that's what Mr. Alm is doing right now. And it's working great right now. Most of the kids, I see him talk to a cross section of kids in the school lobby, and I'm like, oh, that's good. I see a kid that's well off, like Zach, Tess, Kristen, or Liz, and I see some kids that are struggling with school, and he gives them attention. And I think I'd try to run my policy that way.
Okay, we've had the male perspective. Now we'll get the other side. In terms of, at times, high school students need to be disciplined. What do you think registers the most with high school kids if they do have to be disciplined?
I think everyone fears Miss Mazuka the most. If you know that you did something wrong and you're sitting in class and we have phones in each one of the class and you hear that phone ring, and I think everyone stops for a second thinking Miss Mazuka's calling for them.
And what's her role?
She's, I believe, like attendance and everything. So when you come into school late, it's get a note from her, or if you miss a class, you have to give your notes to her. So.
But she's retiring. So we're probably gonna have to bring back corporal punishment.
Okay, so 2 difficult subjects that go way beyond Haldane, but seem to be in the news constantly. I think one in particular more so in the last year or 2, but bullying and drugs. And I'm just wondering what your thoughts are on those issues at Haldane. Do you see it as being average compared to the rest of the world? And I'm actually kind of more interested personally in bullying, simply because that seems to be in the news almost every week. There seems to be a case somewhere where there's some really serious incident.
It's not just a problem at Haldane, it's a global problem now because it's on the internet. Cyberbullying is what we talk about in peer leadership all the time. kids can say stuff on the internet and not have to face the repercussions. And you've watched the news of, kids jumping off bridges, making suicide pacts because of the cyberbullying, and what the peer leadership group is trying to do with Mr. Manny, the new school social worker, is kind of go to kids while they're young, still in middle school, and increase their awareness of how bullying affects kids.
What do you think the root cause is? It's a tough question, but what makes somebody want to be a bully, and what makes somebody easy prey?
Well, bullying presupposes bullying in a circle because the bullied often become the bullies. So
Could start at the home. I think I've noticed that. I think bullying in the high school, just like during the day, is very low, incredibly small. I mean, barely a problem. Maybe 1 or 2 kids a year, as far as I can see. And I think bullying, just the type of person it is, can be really reflected by the parents. And that's tough to deal with at a small school and a big school and in real life,
Right.
because after Mr. Holm, it's an officer this.
Right. And what about the drug situation? What would your comments be on that?
Well, one of the major problems youth in this area have with this area is there's nothing to do, which is not true, because here are your options. You can either be creative and find something to do, get a job, or get plastered on the weekend and do lots of drugs, which is an outlet that some kids choose, not all. And they kind of choose they choose that option to curb their boredom,
Right.
mostly. And of course there's the home problems that influence it.
That leads well into another question I had, and that is, again, beyond the school, the community itself. You've lived in, I assume, since you've all gone to school here for your life, you've lived here your entire life, in Cold Spring or Philipstown at least. What are the pros and cons there? The perception is there's not enough to do. I said exactly the same thing when I was high school age in the area I grew up. A lot of young people tend to say that no matter where they live. So what are the pros about living in a small community, and what is lacking here? If you could wave a magic wand and take care of part of that problem in terms of the perception of things to do, what do you like about the community, and what would you add to it?
As far as this community, there's a pretty good support system against drugs and alcohol abuse in teenagers, because your mom's friend can very well be within sight of you. One of your parents' friends is always around. That's how I view it. I feel like in a town like this, not to say that there's cameras on the street poles, but someone's always watching. And I like that because, not for me, but for other kids, people don't turn a blind eye as much in this community because you know everyone. So I think that's a good thing.
I interviewed somebody on a totally different subject that worked in one of the restaurants locally, and she said she has on occasion said to students at 2:00, "Why are you here? You're supposed to be in school." And she didn't know them necessarily even. She just took that upon herself to do it. Do you think that's typical of kind of what goes on in the community?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
What about actual facilities or facilities, organizations, or whatever that you might add to the town that
Well,
teenagers could take advantage of?
it's gorgeous. It's one of the most beautiful places I've seen, and I feel like a lot of times we take it for granted that we live in such a beautiful community. Then other times, if you drive down to the river, there are going to be a group of kids there, and so sometimes we don't appreciate it as much as maybe we should, because we see tourists come here every weekend. They want to come here. It must be special, and it really is a beautiful place to grow up, and it's a safe place to grow up too.
Yeah. I feel that during the school year, the the school year is centered around the early spring, late fall, and winter, and that's when it's harder to enjoy Cold Spring. It's harder to enjoy a big open space if it's 25 degrees out. So I think that there is a need for some sort of a rec center, because during the summer, you don't need to fill up your time as much during the school year, because you know you have things to do during the summer. You have a lot of kids get jobs and things like that, and it's really easy to enjoy the outdoors in the summer. But during the winter, when you're looking for something to do at 3 o'clock after school,
Right.
and you're not in a sport and you don't have something to do, you don't have anything else. You're not going to go outside and walk around in the cold. So I think that's where a need for some sort of rec center, or even just a movie theater in town. I remember when I was a freshman and sophomore and couldn't drive, I saw no movies. But now that I can, it's easy. But that's easy for me to say.
I agree with Zach. We should have some kind of thing to do during the winter, and in the warm months we have all this scenic beauty that's world renowned. And one thing that helped me was outdoor sports. Just if you're bored, you have nothing to do, take a hike. Literally,
Yeah.
because it's so beautiful, and I could spend all day out there.
Do you guys do that? Do you literally
Mhm.
take hikes around here?
Go up to the quarry, behind, just hike.
Break
Me and my
glass.
friends just sometimes sprint across someone's yard behind the school and hike up, and before you know it, you're got a view of the whole valley, and you can duck down into the quarry and hang out.
Exactly what you're talking about.
I guess the rec center that Philipstown has is in Garrison, which again, if you don't have a car,
Yeah.
makes it
Right.
Yeah.
pretty
Yeah, it's
inaccessible.
pretty far.
Yeah, it's not. I don't think you can walk to it from anywhere,
Yeah.
even if you're at Garrison School.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You were involved with sports outside the school as well, right?
Yes.
So that occupied most of your
That's definitely.
non-Haldane time, at least for recreation.
Yeah, especially this year, it's kind of pulled me away from the school because a majority of people have become my closest friends just because I've spent every weekend with them. We have practice every day, so just spending all my time with them, I've become very close to them. So now I hang out a lot where they live, and they just have a lot more places to go. So they'll have a mall, which is somewhere nice you can go indoors. And it's very close to their house, where even our mall, you have to be 18 on weekends to go in by yourself. And then since there's nowhere indoors in the winter to go, how many times have we been the kids down at the gazebo with blankets on when it's like 10 degrees out in the middle of winter and there's snow around you, and you dressed them properly, as always, so.
High entertainment value, right?
Yeah.
Switching gears quite a bit, way beyond Philipstown and Haldane, looking at the world and world issues. I think environment and economies are both really significant issues, but I'm wondering what your views are on what do you see as the most significant environmental issues that we're looking at as a people occupying this tiny little planet?
Oil.
In what sense?
Well, basically, once we're at peak oil, and once we pass peak oil, which is when we completely run out of it, I think the world as we know it could potentially collapse, because our society is built around the automobile. It's built around something that runs off a finite resource. So 7 billion people on Earth are dependent upon this finite resource that's going to run out. So my question is, what's going to happen to those people once this resource runs out? Because, I like working on an organic farm, because when oil runs out, people are probably going to resort to localized agriculture for survival, because everything is dependent on oil. Our housing, our agriculture, transportation, obviously. You sow the fields with oil-powered machines. You ship the food to supermarkets with oil-powered vehicles. Then you go buy the food with oil-powered vehicles, and you heat your home with oil. So I think oil's a major problem.
Major culprit.
Yeah.
What about global warming in terms of students at the high school? Does that register at all with students? Do they laugh about it if it's a really warm day, or a warm day in February? Is it just kind of a joke, or is there actually any conversation about that?
Global warming's hard to register in high school, I think, because global warming, as a lot of people understand, it doesn't affect a place like Cold Spring, New York. It doesn't affect even a place like Miami, Florida. It affects a place like the North Pole, and it affects environments for animals, not humans. And that's one of the major issues with global warming, is that it doesn't affect humans nearly as much as it affects animals. And I feel like if you care about endangered species and you care about endangered environments, then you care about global warming. But if that's not if those aren't substantial topics to you, you're not going to care about global warming.
And I really don't think it should be a political debate. They're calling it a theory. I think it's a fact personally. I know people are going to disagree with me, but the evidence is out there. Oceans are rising, ice caps are melting, glaciers are melting, oceans are acidifying, the CO2 levels in the atmosphere are higher, so it needs to be addressed. And I personally think that the time to address it has passed, but I guess there's still things we could do too. We can move on now.
Okay, back to the real world, sort of. So each of you has a magical time machine that you're able to hop into, and we interview you 10 years from now. What would you hope to be telling me about where you are and what you're doing? Christine, what do you hope to do down the road a bit?
Well, in 10 years, I hope to see myself owning a spa. Next year, I'm going to DCC for business, and hopefully that'll happen. But I'm going to BOCES now for cosmetology, and I love it. So.
And do you see yourself in this region, or you see yourself going off to Fiji or?
I definitely think I'll stay here, stay close. I like the cold weather, so Vermont or something. I don't know. I haven't really put that much thought into it, but I might stay here and might go to another state. Good. We'll see what happens.
Who next in the time machine? Liz?
Well, I'm majoring, as of now, I'm majoring in business at Fordham. So hopefully in around 10 years, I'd like to be living somewhere maybe in New York City or another city and have an established career somewhat in business. I'm not really sure what aspect I want to major in yet, so I can't really give you a specific job.
So the WNBA is not not your dream at this point?
No, definitely not.
Okay. Tess?
I see myself as a math teacher by day and a Broadway dancer by night. That's the big, dream, but...
So that would be in New York?
Yes.
Zach?
Well, I'm going to study engineering. I found out recently that I can go for mechanical engineering and I can do a lot of other things in my career, so I want to be an engineer in 10 years. I don't know where. I mean, if it's a petroleum engineer, I might be in Alaska. If it's a aerospace engineer, I'll be in California. So I can't tell you where I'd be, but I definitely want to be an engineer.
Cool.
Well, my mind is really convoluted with what I want to do in the future right now. I'm interested in history, the environment, agriculture, and acting. So if you can find a job that encompasses all those things, please tell me. Maybe I'll be... And I also want to get my pilot's license, so that if I could fly, that'd be pretty cool. I hope to be flying by then.
So the day of graduation, as the new seniors, or next year's seniors come up to you, what's the one bit of advice you want to give them as they become seniors at Haldane?
Enjoy every minute of your senior year. Goes so fast.
Does it go faster than the other years?
Yeah,
Yes.
I didn't believe it when last year's seniors told me not to blink.
Yeah.
Is that right?
It's crazy.
I did not believe it at all, and I was all of a sudden AP review week hit, and I was like, oh my god, I can't wait for this to be over.
Mm-hmm.
And AP review is over, and I was like, oh my god, I wish it wasn't over. I wish that I was still doing 5 hours of homework a night. In a sense,
Yeah.
that would mean it wasn't ending, but
It's kind of like that feeling you get if you're reading a really excellent book and you start slowing down in the last third of the book because you don't really want to finish it. Right?
If only we could move through time slower.
Any other specific advice other than enjoy it all?
Well, yeah, enjoy it. And I remember last year I was a junior, and it was in the summertime, and I was talking to a senior from last year, Christian Callahan, and I asked him, where are you going to college and stuff, and then he said, enjoy your senior year, it's really overrated. And he was right. Don't think you'll get to senior year and you won't be able to do anything and just slouch through it the whole time, because you have to work, enjoy it, but work hard.
Yeah.
it was my hardest year.
In many ways, academically, it was challenging.
And
More challenging
all the
than
pressure of applying to colleges on top of it.
Right.
Do you agree about the pressure, Christine, in the senior year?
Yeah, I go to BOCES, so I really only had 2 classes at Haldane. But I did get a lot of work from BOCES. and I did get a lot from Haldane also. So
Okay, the most important question of the day, and you all have to respond to it. There is no Fifth Amendment. Has the senior prank been determined yet for 2011?
That is a good question.
I have lots of ideas. I haven't shared it with anyone.
You don't have to tell me what it is. I just need to know if it's been determined and if you have thoughts on it without divulging them.
I haven't heard anything.
I haven't heard anything.
Someone had a brilliant idea,
Yeah, there was one person that won't tell anyone.
It's not.
but then it wasn't such a good
Yeah, it wasn't.
idea.
Turned out to be not so
It's
great.
going to be vetoed.
It's.
What's the process for determining it? Is it a democratic
It's
process?
a very strict process.
I don't think.
It must go through formal revisions.
Yeah.
I almost don't think Haldane's ever done a mass prank. It's always been 1, 2, or 3 kids.
Right.
yeah.
Those seem to be
Let's
the
not give any
most.
First year mass prank.
Watch out.
It's gonna be big.
It won't be destructive.
Like that's one of the ground rules, right?
Yeah, that's.
Yeah, the main ground rule.
We won't be destructive.
When I was at the University of Waterloo, the engineering students, nobody figured out how they did it, but they took an entire Volkswagen Beetle and put it on the roof of the
Oh, we've thought about that.
engineering building. So
What kind of
plant a seed there. You know. Final question. It's really just out of nowhere, but I have this pet peeve about cell phones. What would you guys think of a rule that did not permit students to take cell phones? If they had to check their cell phone in at the door when you get to school.
Well, when we went to the Bronx School of Law and Finance, we did kind of like a student exchange program for a day, and we weren't supposed to have our phones on us, and we all felt, like kind of uncomfortable because it is almost like a safety device. But from an educational standpoint, in government, we were all working on this like massive project, and I used my phone. People were on their Blackberries looking up things on the internet to find certain topics that weren't in our textbook. So in that aspect, it's definitely helpful. And
I don't think it could work to check in because there's been days where my mom has sent me a text message 5 or 6 times, and if I don't reply to those 5 or 6
Oh,
times,
gosh.
she would have been at the school. So
Yeah, I think our parents are the worst culprits of
Oh,
expecting us to respond right away
Yeah.
when we should be in the middle of, say, calculus, paying attention, and my mom's calling me nonstop, expecting
they
me
don't
to pick
remember
up.
that you have
It's not about
scores.
calculus.
Yeah,
I take it.
definitely not.
Oh, wait a second, I gotta take this. Oh, hi, Grandma. Yeah, I'm not paying attention to what's going on in class. Yeah, I love you too. Bye. See, that's the problem. Kids don't pay attention when they have their phones. Not to, not to take into account the health risks of these things. Brain cancer? I don't know, man.
So it's a mixed response,
Yeah.
at least. Any final words of wisdom? What are you going to do this summer?
Working at the rec center in Garrison.
So you will at least get to the rec center. Yes.
I'm directing Bye Bye Birdie at the Depot Theater for middle schoolers.
Excellent.
I'm gonna relax.
Gonna relax?
Nice.
No summer job?
No, I didn't plan on. I had gotten a job last summer, and it lasted till November, and kind of planned to carry it over, but they sold the restaurant, so kind of found myself unemployed, and I just never found the time to find a new one during the school year.
Liz?
I leave for school July 4th, and I'm gone for a little over a month, and then I come back and then leave again in September.
Very good.
I will be working on Glenwood Farm, and hopefully I will have many great adventures as well.
Well, I want to thank you all for the conversation. It was I enjoyed it. And savor the last few weeks, and good luck with that prank.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.